I'm not going to use a microphone. Hopefully you can hear me back there. Thanks for having me speak today, and I hopefully will have questions and look forward to all your questions. I'll give you a little background about what I do, what I've done, how I got to where I'm at, and some suggestions for you guys if you're interested in getting into the media and entertainment business. I'm a producer, director, and a director of photography for commercials, music videos, TV specials, episodic television features, theme park attractions, and ride films, music specials, and mixed reality projects, VR, AR, those sort of things. I've directed and produced more than 100 music videos and other music content, documentaries, television, concert specials, 3D concert films, and many more. Working with a wide variety of music artists like the Beastie Boys, Foo Fighters, Jay-Z, Pearl Jam, Usher, Bob Dylan, Willie Nelson, Dave Matthews, Jennifer Hudson, Lil Wayne, Jamie Foxx, Lyle Lovett, and many others. My work has been seen on television networks in the U.S. and abroad, and has been distributed theatrically around the world. I've received many advertising, music video, and film festival awards. My work has been recognized in the New York Times, CNN, MSNBC, USA Today, Entertainment Weekly, Billboard, and other publications. And I was fortunate to be invited by the Sundance Film Festival for one of my films as a special invitation showing for that.
Which film was that?
There's a film called Penguins with Lyle Lovett.
Oh, cool.
And Lauren Bacall and Robert Altman, many different people. Producing and directing a film is a team experience. It's a collaboration. When I was in high school, I was interested in psychology and being a filmmaker. In college, I took relevant psychology classes that I believed would help me in knowing how to work with people, understanding human behavior, and not only is it helpful in working with crew members on the set of any production, but also in working with actors. And even though I didn't take a business class, but knowing what I know now and looking back, it would have been a good idea to take business courses to have a grasp of the business of entertainment. I learned the business of what I was doing as I did it, which has worked. I had help along the way, knowing how to negotiate with others, understanding what is important to them, and having a sense of business, understanding the economics of an opportunity, and making good business decisions, all very important no matter what area of entertainment or content creation you pursue. I started making films in high school, and at that time I wanted to be either a filmmaker or a psychologist. When I started college at UT, I took courses in both film and psychology, but focused on filmmaking in the School of Communication. In college, I took production classes, and when I wasn't chosen to advance into the final production class as a senior, because the instructor at the time didn't like my film on airplanes soaring, or gliders, because he was a pilot of propeller airplanes, I didn't get to go into the final production class in the film track at school. But I ended up shooting most of the final films for friends in that class because they wanted me to help them and be the director of photography on their films. I learned the basics of filmmaking in college, worked on other people's films in college, and worked on other people's films for doing the real world for free. And when I worked on other films, people were doing the real world, meaning the professional world and commercial world. I would sometimes work for free or for pay that was lower than normal to get the experience. And even though I was not chosen for the final film production class in the film back at UT, my last semester of college, I developed the idea to do a documentary on the restoration of the oldest operational sailing ship in the world, the Alyssa, which is actually docked in Galveston, Texas. I received a grant from a foundation, partnered with the PBS film unit at the PBS station in Houston, and I started working right away on the film when I graduated. The Alyssa documentary is for PBS and the BBC. Even if things didn't go as planned, like what happened to me, when I wasn't chosen to move on to the final film production class, I went for it on my own. So it's very important to be proactive. Take advantage of any situation that presents itself or that you can influence to show your skills and talents. After doing, sorry, my printer didn't print correctly. I have been the president, executive producer of several different companies. I have consulted for a variety of companies in immersive media, including VR, AR, 3D, holograms, mixed reality, productions, and content creation. When I started in the business on commercials and documentaries, I did many different jobs on a production crew. I was a grip, I was a camera assistant, I was a camera operator, I did sound, I was a director of photography, I was an editor, and then directing and producing. The advantage of working in all these different positions allowed me to understand what it takes to make a film, or a commercial, or a music video, or documentary, whatever the content is. And when I started directing, which I was fortunate to do because that's what I wanted to do, it allowed me to understand what each position was having to achieve on the set. It also allowed to know why each of the positions are important to the success of a shoot and ultimately for the finished product. Around 15 years ago, I produced and directed my first 3D content, a 3D 4D attraction and ride film on monster trucks. It was a live action, wasn't animated. It was distributed to theme parks around the world. 4D means there are other senses involved. The seats move to produce a sensation of movement and motion. Like when you're in the monster truck, there are odors and scents, different scents that are piped into the theater. There can be water spritzers that hit your face to coincide with water splashing on the screen and so on. I'm guessing you've experienced some of these type of ride films at theme parks. After doing the attraction film on monster trucks, I put together a company that produced 3D concert films for theaters. We captured more than 80 hours of performances at 5 major live music festivals, All Points West, Mile High, Lollapalooza, ACL here in Austin, and Fish Fest with Jay-Z and Dave Matthews, Pearl Jam, and 50 other top artists at all the main stages of the festivals. As a result, I started producing a lot more 3D content, commercials, and other special content for SK Telecom in Korea, for the Air Force, the announcement of Samsung 3D televisions, including 3D at the Academy Awards on the red carpet, documentaries for Red Bull, like the Red Bull Rampage mountain biking event that happens in Utah every year, the Grammy tribute to Michael Jackson, We Are the World, 25th anniversary, and quite a few others. When 3D was a popular format, people would say, cool, 3D. And the film studios in Hollywood were converting 2D films to 3D film. There were films that didn't necessarily do well at the box office. And the reason was the films were not good stories. They weren't good scripts. They weren't good films. It didn't matter how many Ds you said you produced the content in. If there wasn't a good story, or if it wasn't engaging, it didn't matter how many Ds you put after the name of content, it wouldn't make it better. Although the studios tried like hell to get people to go to the box office, to the theaters, just because it was in 3D. They were thinking revenue, which is not always the way to approach it. It's all about the story, telling a good story and telling it well. Engage, involve your audience. When you start out, it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking beautiful image, unusual imagery is what it's about. It's not. It's about the story. It's always about the story. With technology changing so quickly and improving and allowing what we can do in terms of creating and having the tools to work faster, allows artists and creators of content to work on their own with the tools to be able to work at home and remotely. It's incredibly valuable. It makes everyone a creator and filmmaker. One of the questions that Mr. Monahan asked was, what surprises you at work and what is mundane and less challenging? One thing to keep in mind, don't be surprised by people not knowing any more than you do. Stay informed about new technology, about the changes and advances in technology. Even though you may not use that technology right away, be aware of it, learn about it, talk about it with others. As a result, you'll become aware of who does know about it and who is experienced using it. You'll be able to call on them or bring them into a project. There are things that they can do that you can't, and there are things that you can do that they can't. So shape up the opportunities so that the opportunities are mutually beneficial and your talent and skills will be helpful to them. If you decide to pursue working in media, entertainment, content production, film or television, and after a while you decide it's not for you, the experience you gain working with people, understanding behavior, and the dynamics of working with a team, collaboration in a team environment, you will be able to use that experience in any profession. With today's technology with mobile phones and iPads that will capture at high resolutions and frame rates and bit rates with cinema features, there's a lot you can do. Shoot your own short film, commercial, music video, documentary. The powerful and good software is there to create content that certainly wasn't around when I was starting out. The game engines, edit programs, audio programs. You can work remotely, not just because of the pandemic, but you don't have to be in an office, which means creators are not as dependent on others, which is great. You can make a film, a game, whatever the content is on your own, good and bad. At the same time, it's important to work with others, to work with a team, to collaborate, get new ideas, share your ideas with others, which often makes for stronger content. Find the balance between working on your own and working with others. In 2011 or 2012, I founded a 3D program at the University of Texas Moody School of Communications. It was a 2-year certificate program, and when I worked with the dean and the chairman of the film department, I made sure that they agreed with me that the students would make content. They would use the state-of-the-art equipment that we made available and work with the top 3D people in the business that we brought in to teach and instruct. The program produced international award-winning films. The students graduated and went on to work in the entertainment and production business. My point is, if you're interested in this field, make things, make content, whether it's capturing a birthday party and you edit a story out of that. The idea is to make things and to keep making things, and you will sharpen your skills and you will understand how storytelling works and how it all needs to really be a story. Follow your passion. Be passionate, be practical, and again, be active. To borrow Nike's slogan, just do it. Thanks.
Can you take questions?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. I have one.
Yes.
You mentioned all those jobs, the gaffer and camera and all that. Is this a business you sort of get into this cult of movie making and you just keep learning these things? They teach you these things, or do you have to fight for each job, or how do you move along?
You know, it's a combination of things. In my case, I started out doing the different crew positions. And I found out that that was very helpful because I learned about all the different disciplines that happen on a film set and what it takes to make a film. So that when I was making my own films, not only did I know how to communicate with the people who were then doing those positions, but I knew that those elements and those disciplines in making a film were very important. So I would pay extra attention to sound. I would pay, obviously, extra attention to lighting and those sort of things. It doesn't always work that way. There are a lot of people who decide they want to be a filmmaker and they just want to direct, or they just want to produce. And you just don't walk in and start doing that. Sometimes you do. You can, if you take drama classes or you're doing theater in school, you know, you have a sense of working with actors, about blocking action on stage, then you may be lucky enough to transition right into being a director, but don't count on it.
Who's the coolest celebrity you worked with and why?
That's a tough question. You know, I've been fortunate to work with a lot of different actors and music artists, and you know, each of them had their own things that were appealing to me. Most were and have been very easy to work with, very nice. There have been a couple that are not, but that always happens in everyday life. So It's hard to say. I'm not I don't want to start dropping names kind of thing.
Okay, good. Questions?
Yes.
What's the best and worst thing about your profession?
What's the what?
The best and worst?
You know, the best thing about it is, it's been several things. If you like telling stories, if you like communication with other people, and you're prone for telling stories, that's really satisfying once you finish it and once you do it. You know, and also the process of making this content is really extremely satisfying. Again, working with other people, the energy and the dynamics and the adrenaline that happens when you're producing things, and you know, sometimes I've certainly in both shooting and post-production stayed up for 36 hours. You know, not a great idea. That wasn't fun, but just had to happen to meet a deadline. So all that can be very rewarding. The worst part is sometimes when you are in the business, and depending on what path you take, if you're in the advertising, if you're producing commercials or directing commercials, and you don't get chosen by an ad agency for your bid or your interpretation of the commercial, and you lose, doesn't feel good. But other than that, you know, it's something that's can be very rewarding, and certainly you just keep going. Yeah.
A common, I think, societal thing is that our movies have gotten worse over time, or the quality of storytelling has gone down. What's your opinion on that? Do you think that our media and entertainment is slowly just diminishing in quality over time?
You know, it kind of ebbs and flows. I do think there are there's a lot of content out there that because the stories or the scripts or the ability to be able to tell the story in a way that's, you know, has a beginning, middle, and end, the industry has suffered from that. There are a lot of people who've gone into it that have no idea about storytelling. That I think really adds to the diminishing factor that you're talking about. You know, the fact that we can all produce something on our phones or on our computers, whether it's animation, and edit it and, you know, get it out there for people to see is great. It's wonderful. But there's also a lot of stuff out there that, you know, people should just keep to themselves. In my opinion. But the fact that people are trying and they're doing it is good, if that's what they want to do. You know? Yes.
How important is getting a film degree to succeed in the career?
That's a good question. You know, I think it's important. I don't think it's critical, and I'll tell you why. When I was in school, I had a cousin who was in film, and we grew up together, and we made films together in high school. And he took the path of academics, and he went on to teach at major universities, film theory and criticism, and that sort of thing. I chose production, someone to make things. Having the degree was important, because people like to see that you graduated in something you're working on. It's not critical. If you're good at telling stories, if you're good at writing, you could be a script writer. If you're good at, you know, visual effects, and you know how game engines work, and you want to create games, or you want to create any number of different kinds of content, you can do that without a film degree. One of the things that one of my pet peeves is that in film schools, certainly in the undergraduate level, is they don't teach enough production. They don't let students get their hands on the equipment and make things. And that's why when I put in this 3D program at UT, I made sure that people could use the equipment. When I was an undergraduate, there was always a storeroom full of the best cameras. They always told me that was used for the graduate students. We couldn't use it, which made no sense to me. So, you know, it's, you gotta just make sure that you get as much experience as you can.
Who do you admire as a director?
Who what?
Who do you admire as a director and why?
Martin Scorsese is one of my favorite directors. Gosh, who else? There are others. I mean, Kevin Costner, who's a very good actor, has actually made some very good films. Clint Eastwood has made some pretty good films as a director.
Can you enjoy a film, or are you always critiquing in your head?
No, I enjoy films. But, I will admit when I'm watching something that seems weird in the editing, or there's some sort of jump in the story, or there's, the story has holes in it, yeah, I certainly pay attention. I try not to sit there and analyze it all. I can appreciate, it's actually more of I appreciate really fine things that work in the film, like production design, the cinematography, the directing, the editing, the music, the sound, all of that stuff. I like to think about it that way as opposed to, breaking it down and criticizing.
One more over there.
Yeah.
Do you think that there's a film that's been like widely critically acclaimed that you think is just awful?
Yikes.
Long list there.
Yeah, there really is a long list. I mean, it's, look, film and art is very subjective, right? So there are things that I think have not been good because it just doesn't appeal to me. But, that's not always fair to judge it that way. And there are films out there that are just not put together well. There's, again, either the production design or the way it's shot or the way it's edited just doesn't work. And again, you've got to be able to tell a story. Any other questions?
Any other questions? No? Oh, one more up there.
Yeah.
What is your favorite type of project to work on, and what is your favorite project medium?
That's a good question. And going back to your question, I also, and I'll answer your question, I'm not a big science fiction person. So films like that, I don't go see, or I don't watch. I guess, seeing many films in theaters these days. But I'm more about true stories and, the real life stories. And whether it's a documentary or whether it's a film about a particular person's story, as long as it's well told, I really like those kind of things. I'm not a big, action film person. I'm entertained by them at times. Just depends. And what was your question again?
What is your favorite type of project that you worked on, and what is your favorite project?
When I started doing 3D work, it was after I'd done, more traditional stuff. When I got into 3D about 2005 or 6, when the technology got better, when the technology of the cameras got better and became digital, and when the projection in the theaters got better so that it was good 3D. And that was exciting to me, to move in it, to work in a format that was something different from what I was used to, just 2D kind of flat images where you use the 3D to tell the story. Not to necessarily wow people or make it gimmicky, but you used it in such a way so that you advance the story and you advance the film. So that was exciting to me. Still is, and I've been doing a lot of VR and AR things and holograms and that sort of thing. It's all pretty exciting as well. Things are changing really fast. Still doing some of the traditional stuff. It's hard to pinpoint one thing or another. There was some music videos and some music artists I really enjoyed working with because I like them and their music, and so that was always enjoyable.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Miller.